And welcome to another episode of the Wellbeing in Education podcast. This episode is all about the ELSA programme. ELSA stands for Emotional Literacy Support Assistant. More and more schools across Suffolk and the UK are training up their support staff to become ELSAs. Today I'm speaking with two members of staff from Hadleigh Community Primary School about how ELSA works in their school and the many benefits that they've seen from embedding the principles they've learned about through ELSA training and supervision. Over to them to introduce themselves. Okay, so thank you both for joining me today. Can I start by asking you to introduce yourself, please?
Hello, thank you for having us. My name is Shelley. I work for Hadleigh Community Primary School, and my role in the school is an ELSA, which stands for Emotional Literacy Support Assistant, and SEND support, and I've been doing that role for 4 years.
Hello, my name is Lynette Cherrington. I also work at Hadleigh Community Primary School, and I have been a class teacher here, and I have been SENCO for the last 2.5 years.
Brilliant, thank you both. So Shelley, could you tell us a little bit about your sort of ELSA journey and how that's gone so far?
Okay, I came into ELSA, as I say, 4 years ago, and that's from a sort of a passion really for working in SEND and children who might have those extra emotional needs, and also from a previous role before I came into education where I worked in a supportive role of victims. And so I felt that that was something that I was very passionate about, and I saw a gap in the school for that. And had a look for different courses that were run for people who worked in school to support young children, and found ELSA. So I managed to get some funding from a local charity to fund the course, took on the course and then set it up, working within the school for about 2 hours a week at the time. Got some resources together, just saw a few children a week, and it started to develop from there. It's really increased. The demand is anything up to 30 or 40 children on the waiting list. I now do 16 hours a week. Some of that obviously is SEND, not just for ELSA. And I've done training to the schools so that everybody knows exactly what ELSA is and how they can refer to me. And we do lots of different things. So we do drop-ins, emergency sessions, all sorts of things, but it's really evolved and really grown during this time.
Wow, incredible. It sounds like from small beginnings, you know, you sort of having that interest in that area, it's grown into a huge thing within schools. That's incredible. So you mentioned a little bit then about kind of referrals and having sort of different ways of organising it in school. I wondered if you could tell me a little bit more about how you manage those kind of practical aspects of organising ELSA within your school.
This also evolves quite a lot as the need changes within school, and as you can imagine with the COVID periods that we've had as well, we've had to adapt it. But as a rule, where we are at the moment is that we have a wellbeing website on our school, website. So if a parent comes up with a concern for a child, then we would usually refer them initially to the wellbeing website, where we have lots of different free courses they can do, lots of advice. If they've done that and they still feel they need further support, that would usually lead to a chat with myself or someone else within the SEND team, like Lynette here, and then we would send home some resources, some practical resources for them to use. Obviously, if it was a really urgent or emergency issue, then we would not be sending them down that route straight away. They would just get referred to me. However, if we get to that stage with the resources and they still need some support, a referral form is completed by the teacher, which comes through to me. There's a questionnaire on there, an emotional literacy questionnaire, which shows me where there are issues, whether it's in school, whether it's at home, whether it's a bereavement issue, an anxiety and anger issue. And then I would do a triage session with that child and also make contact with the parents. after I've triaged them, I can book them in accordingly. So I can say, yes, this child needs 6 sessions or 8 sessions or just a couple of sessions. And then obviously I would start those sessions, book them in as soon as I can see them. I also use the GL emotional literacy support system, which has a scoring matrix, which gives me a point of where the child is at the time and where they are at the end, so I can prove that there has been impact from ELSA, or if further support is needed for the child. The child fills out a form, the parents do, and the teachers is on their referral form. In addition to that, I also do emergency slots for children that perhaps have been seen before and something's happened, resurfaced, or they've had a wobble, or something urgent comes in that needs my attention straight away. We also do transition workshops for high school as well, so the last half term is always taken up with a lot of those. All my sessions are written bespoke to the child, and they're all child-led and child-centred. So I can have a beautiful plan written up, but if the child comes in and says, I need to talk about this, that's what we do. And if I go down perhaps looking at anxious feelings route, and then I find there's more of an anger issue, we switch. We're very fluid, we're very relaxed. We try to make it fun. It's usually one of the best half hours of the week when the child comes to see me, because it's really relaxed.
That's fantastic, and it sounds so person-centred, as you say, that, you know, despite having all that planning in place, you're willing just to react to what the child needs in that moment on that day. That's lovely. So I believe you've just had another member of staff in school who's gone through the early years ELSA training. I wondered if you could tell me a bit more about that and how that kind of differs from what Shelley does.
We found out about it and we managed to get free training on that, which was amazing.
Yes.
We had quite a few members of staff who actually wanted to do it, which was really encouraging for us. So we had to sort of decide and make a choice, and we picked this person. She found the training quite intense and became quite worried about it and felt quite out of her depth. And I think that's really important, that the ELSAs have the supervisions, because I think they get support from other people. I think it's quite a lonely job. Me and Shelley are very lucky we've got each other, but if you haven't got that, it could be quite a lonely job. And so she's only now beginning her journey, but Shelley's met with her, we've gone through resources, we've adapted things for her level, so that actually she's very lucky. She's already got an ELSA in the school who can work alongside her and help her develop. I think that's the main thing that
really
we have
important.
realised.
I'm going to mentor her through until she feels confident, because I think from having started it in the school where the school had never heard of ELSA before, when I started it, I've had to do training with the school to sort of help everybody to understand what it's all about. But knowing that starting that journey on your own and where to start, you've got all this lovely knowledge, but how do you put it into practice? How do you support that child? And I think expectations are quite high as well, that you're almost going to fix children, and that isn't how ELSA works. It's about supporting children and children being who they are and being allowed to be who they are, and affirming their feelings and supporting them to have confidence and break down any barriers that might be caused by their emotional needs to their learning. So it's been really lovely to work with the lady who's just taken on that role, because she can see it right through from the start. She's got my support. I can help her plan and help her to put her referral system into place, all the forms into place, and to get the best out of the role. But she's working in early years, so she will be able to pick up on the children that need them. So there may be less of a referral system needed in her area, because she can work with them directly, being in that area.
So I know that as ELSAs you kind of sit as part of a larger pastoral care team within the school. So I wondered if you could tell us a little bit about kind of the whole school's approach to pastoral care and wellbeing.
Yeah, we are SEMH leads in the school, along with another colleague who's a teacher. So that means that we have obviously an LSA, a teacher and a SENCO. So we try to cover all bases. We've just been granted a Sandwell Charter Mark in Wellbeing for the school. So that's a really nice coup for the school to have that. Yep.
I think most staff understand the need for mental health within our school for children.
Yes.
I think we're still developing it for staff and the outside community.
Yes.
I think there's still lots of work to do there, but it's a very, as we've found, it just changes and develops over time, and you sort one thing out and then you realise actually there's now a need to do this and there's now a need to do that, so it will be ever changing as long as we are still here.
And we did have, before COVID, a sanctuary lunchtime club which did things like yoga, self-esteem exercises, breathing techniques, all sorts of different things, just mindfulness, colouring, all sorts of different things and activities, and we are looking to touchwood incorporate that again in September.
We found that really useful because children would just open up to you. You'd be sitting there colouring alongside them and they'd just start telling you things, and you could often deal with really small things before they get into a big ELSA issue. And the children were very happy sitting there colouring and just discussing things with us and just talking about things, and often we were able just to then quickly nip things in the bud before they got too big of issues.
Fantastic. Sounds like there's a huge amount going on there. It's really lovely to hear about. You mentioned supervision earlier on, and I wanted to ask you a bit more about that, because all ELSAs in Suffolk get regular supervision from an educational psychologist once they finish their training. But I think when some ELSAs hear about supervision, they may be worried that it's about kind of being managed or about being told what to do or about being kind of scrutinised, and obviously that's not the case. I wondered if you could explain what your experience of supervision has been like.
Oh my gosh, they are absolutely precious. I love having the ELSA supervisions. They're with a group of other ELSAs, so you never feel alone. Everybody's in the same boat. It's a fantastic place to share how you feel. There is a check-in before we even do anything. We have a check-in, and that's so important. You can say how things are feeling, how things are in your school, whether you're a little bit overwhelmed, whether you've got some tricky cases at that time that you're dealing with that you need some support with. It's just really friendly, it's non-judgmental. I think everybody just gets stuck in and supports each other during those 2 hours. And then there is a structure to it where you get an opportunity to anonymously talk about the children that you are working with, and everybody input. So it isn't just the educational psychologist that tells you how they think you should be working with that child or gives you different resources or ideas. It comes from within the group. And that's wonderful because we've all got a different variety of experience and ideas and different resources that we've used. So it's a really good place to share and to support each other, to take each child that you're dealing with forward should you need that support. It is very, very relaxed. There is nothing judgmental or management about it at all. And I always come away with millions of tips that even if you haven't talked about a child you're working with, we've all got those kind of children that are being discussed within your school that you think, that would work for this child, and I could do a similar resource and that would work with another child I'm working with. And so you come away with so many different ideas that they are incredibly valuable. I would really miss them if I didn't have them.
Shelley also often comes back from them going, we need to get this from them as well, which is always really helpful. And how much is our budget? And we normally do get it.
Yes, we do.
So now that you've obviously had ELSA in your school for a couple of years and it's really well embedded, I wondered if you could talk a little bit about the impacts that you've seen on pupil wellbeing and maybe give us some examples of times when it's worked really well.
Okay, well, we've found that if children are happy in school and are happy in their lives, they can access their learning. We know straight away if a child's not happy, they can't think about their learning because they've got too many other things in their heads. We've found since doing ELSA, we have less children having meltdowns. We're finding negative behaviour is reduced because when there's negative behaviour, it normally means there's a need, an emotional need that's not being met. So we've worked out that if you can support them, often those negative behaviours reduce or are less likely to show in the school, especially break times and lunch times when a lot of this choices happens. They've learned how to control themselves, how to make better choices, how to cope. And once they've understood their emotions, they know and been taught how to deal with them, they actually feel positive about themselves. They feel empowered because they can deal with it. They're not the ones that are always in trouble anymore. We've just found that's made a huge difference. And we're finding that for every positive interaction that they put in place, whether it's just a smile and a good morning to children that don't want to come in the building, is an intervention. You know, we know those children. I'm out there every morning out on that playground, and I know those children that may have a wobble and may just need to take my hand and be taken into class and given to their teacher and just said, a bit wobbly today. But that starts at the gate, and I think that's the most important thing for these children. And we've learned that through ELSA since I've been Senko, that that's one of the most important things for them, is just have that smile at the beginning and someone to greet you and make the school feel positive before you've stepped inside the building. I think we've realised that often this perceived behaviour that's bad is not that they're badly behaved at all. They just need some emotional support. There's something else going on. And sometimes it may take, Shelley, a few weeks to actually get the child to speak. We've got children at the moment where they don't speak at all, but they'll point to things, they'll do some colouring, they'll colour in what face they're feeling, etc., etc. And over time, Shelley's brilliant at building up that rapport. And in the end, they want to come to you, they want to talk, and it's that patience that they need. And you know, we've got children who perhaps didn't want to come to Shelley, but the class teacher knows if they bring their maths book to show them, they'll be happy to discuss that, and you get that hook in. So, or they might need to bring a puppet, and some children will talk through the puppet to Shelley, but they can't talk to themselves. And I think all these things are little ways that we've found really make a good impact on our ELSA. And I think sometimes it's giving them that empowerment as well. They are actually in control of how they do this, is sometimes what they need. Schools they've moved from a very small school to a school of 500 and something children. The size alone must be quite incredible for them to see when everyone's just coming through the door. But overwhelming. Now it's completely different, isn't it?
But I think also when a child is in that situation, they feel very much that they haven't got any control. They have to go to school. They've been put in this big school. They have to go in that classroom that's bigger perhaps than what they were used to. So giving them a choice of how they want to come into school. Do they want to come in earlier and do some responsibilities in the classroom? Do they want to come in and colour with me before they go into class? Giving them some choice gives them a little bit of autonomy and control back, and then that made her feel more empowered, braver, stronger, to come in and tackle those issues.
We also taught her the coping strategies to calm herself down and how to deal with her, and why her body felt like that, because I think it frightened her as well, the way she was, you know, she was panicking, she wasn't breathing properly, and I think that frightened her as well. So actually telling her that's normal, that's fine, it's your body's way of saying I'm not happy, but we can sort that out, was a huge step. And it's worked for quite a few children.
Very much so. I do think children enjoy learning about what is happening in their body, so that they feel they've got some control back, and that it is normal, that it is temporary, and all those things really empower the children.
Unfortunately, we've had quite a few bereavements. We've had a lot school recently. During COVID, we had quite a few with quite close relatives, unfortunately. So we support the child and the family. It's very much the child-led activities. So if they don't want to discuss it at all that day, and they just want to come in here and colour or draw, then that's what we do. If they want to make a memory box, we'll do that. If they want to make a memory jar, we'll do that. And all those times when we're doing those things, that's often when they'll just start talking, and it's not tell me about how you're feeling. It's very much done through activities where they feel safe and in control. And if they don't want to talk at all, they don't have to. You know, they have this office, they know where it is. If ever they're overwhelmed, they just say to their teachers, I need to go and see Mrs. Cherrington, Mrs. Kinnaird. They know they can come in here and just do whatever they need to do, whether it's cry, whether it's scream, whether it's whatever they need to do, they can do in our office safely without everyone else's eyes on them. Because when these sort of things happen, often all the children start looking at them, you know, and they feel like they're the centre of attention, and they don't want that. They just want to be treated often like normal. They often say, I just want to be in class, I just want normality. But when they're not coping, they
need that time to be able to do that. So the impact of ELSA is being able to come out, have that downtime, decompress, and then feel ready to go back in.
We have a
school.
bereavement box as well, which have lots of stories in, children's stories, right the way from little nursery children right the way up, and activities and things, and parents are allowed to borrow those and take those home and use them. We can photocopy activities for them to do at home. It also includes things, we've got books about cancer and other major illnesses that often come up in families that children also need support with. We've had some recently where parents have been in hospital for a long period of time, or siblings are in hospital, and it's that same thing again. They know that we're here when everything else at home may well be quite traumatic. We are here, we are safe, we're stable, and the parents know that we're here for them. And I think sometimes that is a big thing for them to know, that if they have a wobble at school, there'll be someone there to pick up the pieces. They haven't got to worry about their child at school, that there'll be somebody there. I think that's one of the things we really try to support parents within that time. We do lots of anger and anxiety. Lots of children, especially since COVID, anxiety has gone through the roof, and lots of children will just come up to us and say, I've got anxiety, and often I don't think they actually understand that. That's just what they've heard, because that was mentioned so much. And when you go deeper, often it isn't anxiety, it can often be anger and other things, and we work through that with them. And actually, yes, you might have anxiety, but what does that mean for you? What's happening to your body? What can you do to control it? And we spend a lot of time doing, again, activities and games, and trying to support those children to actually understand what that is, because I think it's out there, those words, but often the child doesn't really understand what they're telling you. They've just heard that word. Don't you think?
It's helping them to understand that they have perhaps anxious feelings, and understanding what is happening within their body, if they do have panic attacks and things like that, so that they can regain control. And the impact of those is we have seen less meltdowns from a lot of those children, coming into school much happier, using coping strategies. We try to share the coping strategies with the school teacher and with parents, so that that can be echoed the same language across the school and at home, and remind them of those coping strategies.
We also try and separate the emotion from the behaviour, so that they understand you're behaving like this because of this emotion. But we can actually find ways for you to calm and soothe yourself, that you can then cope with your day. And I think that's the most empowering thing for these children. Actually, I do get angry, but I now know if I do this, or this, I won't get into trouble. I'll calm myself down, my body goes back to normal, and I can then get on with my day.
And the other thing I just wanted to mention on the impact of ELSA is sleep. A lot of children who obviously struggle with anxious feelings or anger, frustration, whatever big emotion it is that they're feeling, often don't sleep well, churn things over in their mind, can't settle at night. And we've had some really successful sessions with children where we've really managed to turn things around, and their sleep has really improved. We've had some where children have refused to go to bed and worry so much that they want mum or dad or whoever looks after them to stay in the room with them, or to sleep in parents' beds. And with a lot of cases, we've managed to completely reverse that and get children back in their own beds, sleeping at a more reasonable time, which obviously is ultimately going to impact their emotions. If children are tired, they're going to be more grumpy or see things as worse, so as we all do. So we've had some real success with good sleeping routines.
Amazing. Wow, but all those examples you've given, I think, really show the breadth of the ELSA programme. You've talked about everything from sleep to, those basic emotional understanding things, and anxiety and grief and bereavement. There's so much, isn't there, that ELSA includes, that you're able to then apply across, all sorts of different situations. So that's fantastic. Okay, before we finish off, is there anything else you wanted to say about ELSA, just before we wrap up?
For me, it's actually in some ways become more important to us as a school since COVID. And I think a lot of other schools are probably now in this situation of, we've got more and more children who understand that they're not feeling how they want to feel. We've got a lot of children who have missed out on basic social skills in the early years, and actually that is impacting their mental health and things. And I think, for us, I can't imagine what our school would be like if we didn't have ELSA now, and what would these children be like, and what would they feel? And what would they feel like? How would we have supported them? So for us, I can't imagine what it would be like if you haven't got something like ELSA or something similar in your school, because obviously when we went to school, this was never really thought of. And now I can see the importance of that for the children then to be able to cope in school and learn. And if you haven't got that basic emotion, actually well-being there, actually the children can't learn. And then what's the point of being at school if you can't physically cope within school, if your heart's always beating too fast, if you're always worried about something, if you're always high anxiety,
and
or
you feel different to everybody else for that.
And I think, you know, for us, we've realised that that's just as important as an education of maths, English and science. And actually emotions are just as important to learn about in the PSHE side of the school curriculum.
Brilliant. Thank you both so much. It's been so lovely to hear from you, and you know, your passion for this work just absolutely shines through, so thank you. So that's it for this episode. If you'd like to know more about ELSA and how you can introduce it to your setting, please use the links below to get in touch.